everyone, this is Tamara from shelfaddiction.com, and welcome to episode 72. We're here live today recapping and reviewing The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 11, broadcasting live from shelfaddiction.com/podcast. Whether you're joining me on Periscope or listening via shelfaddiction.com or listening via the Spreaker app, leave a comment. We want to hear your thoughts on last night's episode. If you enjoy live episodes, go ahead and share it on Twitter right now. Show your support by rating the podcast and leaving a positive review on iTunes. The podcast can also be found on the Spreaker app, iTunes, Google Play Music, the Stitcher app, and more. Joining me today is PCS co-host, fellow TV junkie, and indie author Lisa Orban. If you want to comment on something you've heard during today's episode, leave a comment now, or you can find me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. You can also find Lisa on Twitter at Lisa Orban Author. If you'd like to email in feedback or questions, feel free to reach out to me at info@shelfaddiction.com. Hey Lisa, good evening.
Hello, Tamara.
Hi. Are you excited to be talking about this?
Oh my God, I am. I don't know. I don't even know how I feel about this episode. I'm wrapping my brain around it. I don't want to think that Eugene's gone bad.
I know. And I was just thinking, like, that whole time, I'm like, is he gonna turn? He's such a weak person. Is he gonna turn, or is he fooling us? I don't know.
I know. And I even watched like The Talking Dead, and they had the guy that plays Eugene on there, and he doesn't even know. He told the director, he's like, I don't want to know. Just hand me the scripts right before you give them to me, and don't tell me. I don't want to know. He's like, because I don't want to play it either way. So I'm like, so even he doesn't know.
Oh my goodness. But this was an interesting show. Like, we got him and Dwight, I think his name is. Like, it was a lot going on with those two, and it's almost like, I don't know. It was interesting to watch this because it's important to the story, obviously. But I kind of did miss the other characters this episode.
I did, and Corey, he was cracking me up. He's like, oh my God, they're making me feel sorry for Dwight. And I kind of was feeling for him too. I'm like, oh, this, he has been such a bad guy, And then you see this little backstory and with the beer and the pretzels. He remembered the beer and the pretzels.
I know.
And right there when he took those out of his backpack, if she had been there, he would have run away with her.
Yeah.
He would have. Absolutely. Yeah. And, and she wasn't there because she didn't trust him.
No, she didn't. She didn't think that he would leave for trying to protect her. So...
Mm-hmm. And we all make these choices, and I mean, and I think she had gotten to the point where she's watched him go down this road and getting worse and worse and worse and more closed in, and she kept saying through that letter that she sent him was, you forget, it's maybe a blessing that you don't remember as clearly things like everyone else does, and I think in the end she finally realized that, or I think she finally thought, I think he's forgotten he loves me.
Oh, yeah. That was sad.
And it was terrible. But then by the end of the show, when he framed the doctor.
Oh,
like,
I know.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute. So is he like really angry at Sherry, or I think that's Lay's name, or is he just really going to any length to protect himself and keep her secret? Or,
I think he didn't forget he loved her, but he couldn't go back empty-handed. He had to give Negan something,
right?
And he couldn't lay the blame directly at Sherry, because if he knew that Sherry was the reason that Daryl got out and Sherry was the one that orchestrated everything, he would have wanted a body. He wouldn't have cared. He would have gone and looked for the walkers,
right? Like, we're gonna find her one way or another.
But if he gave him somebody else, someone to distract, like the doctor. And I also think it was calculated, because the doctor was someone that could move freely around the building, was above suspicion for the most part, had a soft spot, obviously, for Sherry, but because he is a doctor, and it's not like, there's any medical schools anymore, there's not going to be any new doctors, from universities, he's kind of a rare commodity. So I think Dwight in his mind thought, I'm going to pick someone that's going to get punished, but he's not going to get punished as bad as the rest of us because of his status.
Yeah.
And
well, boy, was he wrong.
You know, oh God, yes.
He was so wrong.
I know. Tossed in the fire.
I know. You know who I blame for that? I really blame it on what's his face, because he was lying the whole time. He's back to lying, and Negan obviously thinks he has a doctor. He thinks he's got this smarty pants, as he calls him. So,
no, I mean, but Eugene is smart. I mean, he's not a physician. He is a doctor. No. I mean, in immunobiology and genetics.
But that's not true, though. That was a lie. Remember, he made all of that up. He's a smart guy, but he doesn't have a doctorate degree.
I don't know. I think he might actually have a doctorate's degree.
See, I don't know. I have to go back because I'm trying to remember the episode where it all came tumbling out that season that it was a lie. They weren't going to the CDC. He lied about his role with the government. He lied. Remember that they were on the road and it was this huge thing and he almost got left behind because, it came out.
And I do remember that. I was just thinking that I was just thinking that the part he lied about was that there was a consortium getting together to find a cure for this.
No.
But I thought he was actually a doctor.
I didn't. I thought he was lying the whole time. So I guess we've got to dig into it and see which is what, because I think he's just lying.
Because even like the character that plays Eugene says, we're getting a little more of his backstory and where he came from, and so so maybe he's forgotten that too.
I don't know, but like he starts talking, like I just remember when they came across him when his character first came on scene. That whole, this is who I am, this is what I know, I have all of this, I'm so smart. He presented himself in that same way to Rick's group.
He did. And I won't, and I do remember that. He does try to become valuable. And I do know that, obviously he does have some medical expertise. He knows how to make poisons, he knows how to make bombs, he knows how to, so Eugene is smart. He is very, very smart. But he's not, a physician, which is, so even if he has, even if he has a doctorate, that makes him a doctor, but it doesn't make him a physician.
Exactly. And I feel like Negan, he heard all those fabulous things about Mr. Smarty Pants, and that then made the physician disposable. Less valuable.
Yeah. Less valuable. So it's going to be kind of interesting. And like I said, I want to believe that Eugene is playing a long game. He is a coward, and I'm not, we all know that Eugene's a coward, but he has really come quite a ways, in his own character, and he's become not the coward that he had been, and he knows what Negan has done, and he has seen the terror that Negan has inflicted, and he knows, and he loves Rick's group. He loves him, and he saw what he did to Glenn, and he was so close to Glenn, and then and what he did with and how close he was with oh my God, I did it again, I forgot his name, Abraham.
Yeah.
And I mean, Abraham was right there, and he saw Negan just pummel him to death.
Right.
And I will be so sadly disappointed if I find out that he's just gone back to being nothing but a coward.
I know. That would be dreadful. But you know what? This is Dwight's time to shine, because I do feel like, I kind of said this early on, he's going to turn. He's going to turn. And, back when, Daryl first escaped, I'm like, man, that was Sherry. I'm like, she's, we're all like thinking, and that's the catalyst he needs. Like, he really didn't want to be there. And maybe he was being there for Sherry. And now that she's not there, he might.
It's hard to say.
He
either might completely forget who he was and just completely embrace his role in Negan's army. Or, like Sherry said, the part of the reason she let Daryl go was because Daryl was reminding him of the person he had been, and and she was afraid for him now, for that, and So I don't know. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here, and we're all very uncertain on where it's going to go. You know what I mean?
See, I'm like unclear on exactly what she meant by that. I mean, is she trying to say you're a dummy who's slow, so you can't remember anything, and if you remember who you used to be, then you're just gonna die because you're just that dumb? I mean, I kind of felt like that's what she was trying to infer. Like, you can't be that person and still survive.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, she seemed like she was the brains of the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Dwight followed her lead. He didn't want to, give her to Negan as a wife, but Sherry decided that this was the best way to save him. And, she's always kind of taken the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just gone along with it. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's a dumb person, but I do believe in his heart he will never be a leader. He's always going to be a follower. He's going to find a strong person, attach himself to that person, and then be with that person once.
Yeah, well,
and that's just the kind of person he is.
That's clear.
Oh, yeah. So it's hard to say. I mean, because I think, as strong as Daryl was, that I think Dwight would have eventually gone over to Daryl's side, so to speak, and would have followed Daryl because he would have seen it. He's following who he feels is strong,
mm-hmm.
So I don't know. And then, then going back to Eugene, I was really thinking, oh, he's just playing the long game. He's playing the long game, until I saw him eat those pickles. That when he first when he opened the pickles and he just had this look on his face, like, I don't have to be scared anymore. And then when Negan came in and said that to him, you don't have to be scared anymore. And he has really lived in fear since the beginning, since this whole thing has started, and he doesn't do fear well.
You know what? He didn't even let Negan get the sentence out. He was going to ask him who he was, and he's like, I'm Negan. He just jumped in. He was so excited to say it, and I'm like, this is crazy.
But he has fooled us before.
Mm-hmm.
He has lied before. He lied to Abraham. He's lied to other people. To play a different game. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't want him to be bad because I really like Eugene. He's been one of my favorite characters. And it would crush me if he became a traitor.
Really? I never really liked him. I always thought he was weak, and I always thought he was a liar based on how, when we discovered that he was lying about that, I always thought he was like the person that would drag everyone down. Like, he's the dead weight. He can't fight. He can't do anything but lie, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I didn't like him at first. I really didn't. But it was after, he came clean and admitted, it's like, I am this terrible person. I am a coward, but he saved Rosita, and he went back and got her. And when he saved her from those zombies, when she had gotten injured, in the warehouse.
I know.
And that was that first turning point where he goes, maybe I can be brave. And then, there was the confrontation between actually him and Dwight where, he bit Dwight in the groin to get away from him.
Oh.
That I'm gonna hate myself for saying that, but that took some balls.
Right.
I'm gonna hate myself for that one, but there it is. And then he took it upon himself to find the smeltery and get the ingredients that were needed to make a bullet and everything else, and for the sole purpose of helping out the group and making them strong again, even knowing what Negan would do to them. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, there's just this, I want to think that he's learned and he's grown as a person and he's not that ultimate coward, but I'm afraid that maybe he is.
But think about this, though. He had a chance. He had allies that were going to kill Negan. Make us these pills, and he figured it out. But instead of giving up the pills, he'd rather the man who can protect him stay in power than to take a risk and try to get him assassinated, basically.
Right. Although, now see, because I wouldn't have given him those pills either. And not because I was a coward, but because he's only been there essentially 2-3 days, I think. And, so these women were sent to him that first night, and, and then the next night they're like, oh, we want you to help us, kill one of our people. And to me, I kind of thought in the back of my head, this is a test.
Yeah, I thought that too.
And the timing that Negan showed up in his apartment, in such a short time frame after the girls had left, I think that was a test. I think he was trying to find out if he could, quote unquote, trust, Eugene. Okay. And so I think, again, and so it could be, he's playing to that I am a coward. Yes, I am a coward, and he's going to make everyone believe this while he does something else, because no one's going to look at the coward to do anything brave.
That's true. And he is in a prime situation where he could be, fooling everyone. He totally could. And Negan is getting a little bit comfortable. He thinks he knows how to read everyone so easily. And he doesn't, possibly.
And the thing of it is with the character that's, the Eugene character, he has Asperger's. It's a, kind of a form of autism. And which makes him not read like everyone else. Right. He doesn't have the same wants, the same desires as your average person, because their head's in a different location, so to speak. He likes his video games, he likes his creature comforts, he likes his books.
Right.
But the base desires, the beer, the women, etc., that Negan plays to, he legitimately has no interest in them.
Oh, I know. It's funny when Negan sent him the girls, and they're like, he's like, no sex, and he's like, I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. And he's sitting there playing video games, eating popcorn. I mean, it's like, wow. Like, other guys would probably be trying to push their luck, and he's just like,
whatever.
Whatever.
Well, and he stated, he's like, I know that you're not here of your own free will, so I'm not going to try to impose on you. I am trying to show you respect by having you engage with something I enjoy doing, which is playing the video games. And so I want to believe that Eugene in the end is not on Negan's team, but he knows that he's not going to get anywhere by being defiant to Negan. He knows he doesn't have the strength for that.
No, he doesn't.
But
he knows it, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and no one pays attention to the coward. Yeah. And so, like I said, I really kind of think in the back of my head, these girls, I mean, they even stated those two were there of their own free choice. That's what they picked it because it was better than being among the rabble.
See, I would have rather it be the other way. Like, and by that I mean, you remember how Carol, she played the weak woman very well. She fooled everyone. I could see if he was acting and we were like, I don't know, I'd rather know that he was on a side and acting than really just, this guy is really, truly, for real, a coward. So who knows what he's going to do? He's a wild card. So,
and to me, I mean, if this girl really wanted to kill herself and she wanted help, she would have gone to him. Or as soon as the girls came back and said, hey, we can help you. Or if she was in on, because of the three of them that wanted to, the girl that they said wanted to kill herself, if any of them was going to try and kill him, it would have been her.
Unless she too is so weak that all she wants to do is drink herself into the grave, which is totally possible.
It is, but I think, she's not comfortable in her position. I think if she was given the opportunity to kill Negan, I think she would have been right there with him. So that's kind of why I'm thinking it's a test. And I think because a lot of his lieutenants and stuff have been sent off with these women, and I kind of think that's part of the test. Can Can he trust them not to,
Yeah.
have sex with his wives? Can he trust them, give it a test?
Yeah.
And I kind of think it was a test.
Well, if that's the case, he passed with flying colors.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but Negan doesn't do anything that's not calculated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this would be something, to me, at least in my mind, would be a calculated test. How far can I trust this guy? We know he's smart.
Right.
Can I trust him? And I think if that's the case, and then obviously, like we said, Eugene passed the test.
Mm-hmm.
And by him saying to the girls, very bluntly, I am a coward. I am a coward. That would completely allay all of Negan's suspicions of him. Oh, well, I don't have to worry about this guy ever.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping. That's hope speaking, man.
We will see. I mean, because he sure enough, he was very scared when he first arrived. He didn't know what they were going to do to him. I mean, he was like shaking in his boots. And then, he's like, oh, he goes and thinks he's in a hotel asking for lobster. And lady's like, what? Are you crazy? So actually, that was pretty funny, I thought. But
yeah. Well, she did say anything. So I think he was testing his limits.
Like, what does anything mean exactly?
Mm-hmm.
Not lobster. That's what.
Yeah. And again, there was also that moment where, he said something about chips. And when she told him that they did have chips, that they were made by basically one of the slaves, he no longer had any interest in the chips.
Mm-hmm.
And, the whole deal with the doctor, I mean, that visibly upset him. And, and the other thing is and I kind of noticed this too, when Negan tossed the doctor in the fire,
yep,
the one girl that they said wanted to kill herself ran off and basically puked. The other two that had been sent to him stood there and watched and seemed almost unmoved. So, and I saw, and Eugene, was staring down at them. So I'm wondering if maybe there's these little clues going on that, he went, wait a minute.
Right.
If they were as horrified by him as, they claim to be, they should have gotten sick. They should have looked stricken. And instead they just stood there.
Right.
So.
Huh.
That's where that's why I said I kind of think he made a calculated risk. He said no, because, I don't trust you.
Right. And I guess it is a safe risk because you know what? If he wanted to change his mind later, he could. He could give them the pills at a later point. I mean, if he felt that they were being for real or something, it didn't have to be that day, that moment.
Right.
So.
And there's also the point is, how would they get Negan to take these pills anyway?
I know. How would you get someone to take pills? Unless he says, give me some Advil and you take it out, or give me a Tylenol PM or something and you take it out the bottle. But I don't know.
Guess. Yeah, because, if it was an injection, if he was, sleeping perhaps, but in a capsule like that, I don't know how they could get that to him, make him, give it to him without him noticing.
Yeah.
And considering the ingredients that he was using, it's going to be bitter. So, it couldn't be hidden in like a drink or food. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it never quite sat right with me, them asking him to make those pills, because, and I first, they want him for Negan, but in a pill form like that, there's no way to get it to him without him specifically asking for, some kind of a, cold tablet.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Well, I mean, you know what? It's like we really had a lot of things going on, but at the same time, it was a mild episode. It's almost conflicting the way, it's not slow, but it was a tame episode. I was expecting a lot more. I think the worst thing about it was when the one Walker disintegrated and the guts fell out. I'm like, oh
so
goodness.
Gross. That's so gross.
That's disgusting.
And I had to laugh too because he turned on the music and it was playing Easy Street. I'm like, oh my God. And he's bobbing his head to it.
I know. As Dwight's getting his butt kicked in his room to Easy Street. It's crazy.
I know. the most hated song on that show right now is on Easy Street.
Oh, I know, right? It's crazy. What do you think about his idea to put metal, or, what do you call it? Yeah, metal on top of the walkers?
Um, if they're just wanting to attach them to that fence, yeah, it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they can't move around, they can't move their arms, but I mean, like, as an intact being, yeah, they'll stay intact. Won't they won't be harming anybody, because I'm here to tell you, if you get bit by a walker that's stuck on a fence and can't move, you're pretty lame.
Right.
But if
Yeah.
Negan wants it just there for show,
Mm-hmm.
to show off what he has done, then I think that might be affected to have an entire fence lined with, metal encased walkers.
Well, it'll definitely look interesting, and I wonder if they're actually going to get the fence lined with the walkers by the time the fight breaks out, because that would be interesting to see, if nothing else.
I mean, and again, I mean, their head is going to be protected by the molten metal. But man, it would be really hard. I mean, you would have to be doing something really dumb to actually get bit by one of these, because they're not going to be able to move. I mean, their head is stationary, and even if their mouth can still nom 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 nom,
Yeah.
it's not like they're going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd literally have to like put a body part in their mouth.
Yeah, that's true. Like, even if, yeah, I mean, you'd have to literally walk up to them and just put your hand out.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend putting your foot in their mouth to take as a boost over the fence, but you could climb on their shoulder, because they can't turn their heads.
That's true. I didn't even think of that, but that's completely true.
Yeah.
Oh,
So visually, I could see where it could be a psychological deterrent for other groups, to see this metal wall of walkers.
Yeah.
That psychologically it would be intimidating, but the reality of it is it's pretty useless.
Yeah. Well,
it is a lot of effort for not a lot of return.
I know. All that just to save, the integrity of the walkers, because they were all falling apart and gross. Ew.
Yeah. But that actually does go back to my other theory that, about the whole, pretty soon walkers really aren't going to be much of an issue, because they are falling apart.
And that makes sense.
I mean, we'll always kind of have...
And, that makes complete sense, being that, this has been going on for years. They can't stay in that,
decayed.
Exactly. Ew.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty soon, we're going to have just, like, pools of, gooey teeth.
That's true. Unless people keep getting infected, or there's a new round of infection that they can't, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're all infected, so if they die, obviously they're going to turn into walkers. But there's so few people right now, and because they're so aware of it, there might be one or two if someone dies alone or something.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is the large swaths of the walkers that we have are just eventually, they're decaying as they go, and they're going to become less and less and less of an issue as time goes on. And they're becoming slower, too, and it's not just because people are getting more used to them. It's honestly just because
they're decaying.
They're not as, they're decaying. They're not as agile as they were. They're not as mobile. They're walking slower. They're not as strong. So, and that's just going to keep happening because, entropy's a bitch, man.
Yeah, it is. Well, I don't know. Overall, I thought this episode was decent. It definitely wasn't one of my favorites. I would hate to have another episode like this. I kind of feel like, okay, we've gotten a little glimpse. I mean, overall, I feel like we've gotten all the info we can get about this, the saviors or whatever, in general.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, I mean, we got a little bit more of a background into not just Dwight, but kind of how the saviors work, and they're kind of free. I mean, they're kind of stupid, and Eugene grabbing up that sloth thing, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to call it a goober snapper or something.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know what this is, but
so
I mean, but you can see. I mean, they're very hostile towards each other. I mean, there is no trust inside this building.
No.
One of the first scenes that they show with Eugene is one of the guys stole something and snuck away, and Eugene watched him until he disappeared. And so there is no trust. There's no sense of community here. It's everyone's being held together by fear, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Negan, he's holding on by a thread. I mean, he's holding them tight with fear, but let a stronger person come along. It's done. It's done. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like everyone will start flipping their script when they realize that it's an uprising, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of cowards there, but it's not just that. But unlike Rick's group that has forged these bonds with each other to look out for each other, to take care of each other, no one in this group does that for each other. Not really. Everyone's looking out for themselves, because to look out for someone else is to be hurt.
Right.
And those few that do end up, being put in positions of lesser power and become one of Negan's wives, and so on and so forth. So there's really no sense of community. There's no sense of, helping one another. So
yeah,
it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, interesting. I can't wait to see what's on for next week. I really hope that it gets really exciting and we have some action.
Well, I do know the next one is going to be a lot of Rick. It's going to be Rick and yeah. I need more sleep, man. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Swords. The sword lady. Anyway, but it's going to be about them.
Oh, so yeah. Michonne.
Michonne. Thank you.
No problem.
It's going to be about him, Michonne, and there's something about an amusement park, so it should be interesting.
Oh, yeah, I did see that preview. Because, they're out supposedly looking for guns, right, for the one group. Yeah. So, that's going to be interesting.
Yep.
Ah, I guess a place for walkers to hide around every corner.
And there's probably going to be at least one dressed as a clown. You know it.
Oh, yeah. No. People who hate clowns, beware.
I don't know for sure. I'm just saying it is an amusement park, so the odds are decent.
That is hilarious. All right. So I guess, I don't know. You think we're finished? Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
I think we've kind of gone the width and breadth of this whole thing. I mean, I enjoyed the episode. It wasn't, as scary or as intense as some, but I did kind of enjoy the deviling in a little bit more of some secondary characters that we don't spend a lot of time with that are interesting. And I thought both of them have been interesting characters. So it was kind of, and to put them two together and see them both on this little path that they're on I liked it. But not my favorite episode, but definitely I did enjoy it.
Yeah, it was decent. It was decent enough. All right, so I guess that's it for today. Thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you for streaming and downloading and all that fun stuff. And we will see you soon, actually on Sunday. So until then, happy watching, right?
Happy watching, man.
Happy watching. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
If you are enjoying Pop Culture Sunday and would like to show your support, there are a few things that you can do. First, you can head on over to iTunes and give a positive 5-star review. You can follow both myself and Lisa on Twitter. You can follow the Shelf Addiction podcast here on Spreaker, the only place where you can listen live and get broadcast notifications so that you never miss an episode. Most importantly, you can share the podcast with friends and family that enjoy pop culture as much as you do. Thank you for listening. We will see you here on Pop Culture Sunday next week. Until next time, happy viewing.